universe. We're all connected on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter. So this is kind of interesting. We're connected. We engage. We did that. What about this? This is the next universe. What are the things that happen in this universe? Well, it's a business, right? So instead of linear, now you have things like Uber, right? Where the car people, or Lyft in San Francisco, where normal people who own cars are now actually competing with taxis. Airbnb, who's the hotel? Who is the consumer? Who owns the hotel and produces the service? And who actually rents out their homes and rents the rooms in those? So you can see that it's now a bit more circular. You guys are producing content right now, right? So there's an alternate business model. There's a business cost and motive. There's innovation for sure. There is a monetary outcome, but I want to show you the social good. There is a social good outcome, and it's pretty amazing. Crowdsourcing is what we're talking about, and crowdsourcing is happening in many different ways. Law enforcement is using it, the Boston bombing. Crowdsourcing leads to big data. What is crowdsourcing? All of us just taking one small step. Each of us in this room, there are about 200 of us here, we tweet once, we become bigger, better, faster than every single one of us. It is a world of collaboration. In the Boston bombing, the FBI used the crowd. They didn't have cameras everywhere, but the crowd did. What about this? This is another example of crowdsourcing, right? A study, crowdsourced stock opinions beat analysts and news. That the crowd is smarter than the specialists. Amazon.com was started with professional reviewers. Now they got rid of the professional reviewers, right? It's the crowd that reviews. Crowdsourced stock opinions beat the analysts and the news. There are certain conditions when that happens, but that's interesting. Seeking Alpha tells us that the crowd is smarter than one person. We crowdsourced, this is Tom Nod, they crowdsourced looking for the missing Malaysian Airlines plane. And then this is the one I like best. You can make big things happen by crowdfunding, right? In some ways, these events are crowdfunded that we're doing now, but technology and the crowd. Oculus Rift, if you're familiar with Oculus Rift, it's virtual gaming. It was started by a small group of people who went on Kickstarter to raise money. So they didn't have the money to make their idea a reality, so they raised more than $2.4 million. And then, that was in 2012. Less than 2 years later, they were bought by Facebook for $2 billion. That's the crowd. This would never have happened without the crowd that made this a possibility. See the power of the crowd? Exciting, right? It's exciting. Here are the top industries that will be disrupted by the crowd. This is from a crowdsourcing summit that we did in Singapore earlier this year. Finance and banking, not-for-profits and causes. We will do more good together if you use the crowd. Technology and software, this we know. You'll hear from Microsoft later on. You'll hear from others who'll talk about technology. Art and design, right? If you're on freelancer.com or a bunch of other places that will change, that will crowdsource. And us, publishing, media, communications. That's incredible stuff for me. Let me tell you about the most fun thing when you start with nothing. Which is really what we did with Rappler about 2.5 years ago. There was nothing. It was an idea. And we decided we're going to change journalism. My friend Kelly will talk to you about the evolution of journalism from another place. But for us, here in Manila, you saw us evolve. And it started with something very simple. Our office was, we ripped down the walls. Because it is important to collaborate in this day and age, and that helped us. The studio is actually next to the managing editor's office. I mean, it's there are no walls. And you see Natasha talk to you about multimedia journalism. Before we even began, we decided we needed to change the workflows. This was something that we asked a group to build for us, just a case for the iPhone. And then we cobbled this together. Now you can get some of this stuff off the shelf. But in 2012, it was something we pulled together. She's holding her light. This is her little gear, and then in her left hand is her tripod. One person to do what 4 people used to do. And this is the part I like best. This is in our first few months. This photo was taken by Seth Drillon, right? These guys are our former camera, well, I was former ABS, but this is our cameraman from ABS-CBN. Do you see Ayi is doing her stand-up in front of her camera, which is an iPhone, and our cameramen are laughing at her. It's a bit of, there was a lot of that at the beginning when we started. The funny thing is, of course, she posted much faster than the video they were shooting on this very large camera that took hours to go from their tape, from their digital file on air. So that's part of the advantage of technology. We built a satellite broadcast band. Will cost you anywhere from $600,000 cheap if you're buying 6 or 7 of them. Can you imagine that? About $1 million if you're trying to bring it to the Philippines. This crazy Rappler builds this for $100,000. And I only tell you that because this can actually do live broadcasts, and in the process, it's an IP satellite band. It will wind up giving you broadband, which is like oxygen to this generation. It's oxygen to us. Right? You can go without food, maybe water, but you need broadband. So what do we do with this? Well, we drove it to Tacloban when Haiyan happened, when Yolanda happened, and it gives. We parked it, it gave excess energy for people to charge their cell phones so that they can tell their loved ones they're okay, and it gave broadband over a certain area. It's cheaper, it's faster to stay connected. This is Rappler today. We're still very small. We started with 12 people. We're less than 100 people today. But I think the part I like best, this is too much me, but this is the part I like best. You can pull worlds together. My former network, CNN, spends a ton of money to do the broadcast satellite. But look at where we are. My report to CNN is on my laptop that costs free on broadband, transmits the report free on broadband, and you can pull it down on satellite. You see it all compressed. That's the shift in technology that we can utilize. And we have. And here's the last part. In all of this, Chai told you, the crowd has been with us. And most of the time, the crowd is amazing. The crowd is also very makulit. And they're great copy editors. So, if we're even 5 minutes late for the newscast, I'll already get tweets saying, we're waiting. I'm like, okay. That never used to happen before with television. But this is what the crowd also did. In less than a year and a half, little Rappler with, maybe 20 people at that point, became the 3rd top online news site in the Philippines. That is the crowd. And that is this generation. It's something that would have been unthinkable for me as a traditional broadcast journalist. On Alexa, it's publicly available. Sorry, why are you disappearing on me? So Alexa, it's publicly available. Number 1 in the Philippines is Facebook. Number 2 is Google. So this is the first. The Daily Inquirer is number 1 in terms of news. My old network is number 2, and Little Rappler's kicking in. We're a little bit aghast. We actually hit number 2 at one point, and we celebrated. So you celebrate these small things. Here we go, Rappler. What's Rappler? We made it up, right? It didn't exist 2.5 years ago. But rap, a throwback to the 80s, because there are still 4 or 5 of us above 40 in it. And then, this is what we wanted to ripple. So the core is still there.